It was the protagonist Yoshimi's first spring as a high school freshman when a girl suddenly proposed marriage to him. He recalled that school was a smaller, distorted reflection of modern society, with its own caste structure, and since he was at the lowest tier, he barely had any friends and had no idea how to deal with romance. He felt jealous of others and questioned how he could ever get a girlfriend outside of the game. Yet, being on a date with the girl at that very moment made him wonder if such an absurd development had truly taken place. He had even received a ring from her and wondered whether it was really appropriate to give an engagement ring to someone they had only just met. The girl held the key and kept looking at Yoshimi, while he found it hard to believe that such a beautiful girl was sitting right in front of him. She introduced herself as Mitsuboshi Hikaru, a fellow student at his high school, and admitted that she had fallen in love with him at first sight when she had seen him in town, which was why she had asked him to marry her. When Yoshimi brought up that it sounded more like something from a dating site profile, Hikaru called Shigemori, and suddenly a lady appeared, introducing herself as Hikaru's assistant. Yoshimi felt hesitant, realizing that he had overreacted earlier. Shigemori then presented a collection of data about Hikaru, which, she explained, would help Yoshimi understand her better. She described Hikaru's many accomplishments, including her influence in government, entertainment, and various other fields, emphasizing that she possessed everything a person could possibly want. Yet Hikaru herself admitted that the only thing she lacked was Yoshimi, which was why she proposed that they officially register their marriage once they turned 18. Yoshimi said that he wasn't someone who desired all those things, but Hikaru reassured him that it didn't matter, because he was amazing in his own right, and she had never met anyone with qualities like his. Yoshimi remained confused, but she told him that since he had said so, he had no choice but to believe it. She radiated such brilliance that Yoshimi thought the more he stood in her blinding aura, the brighter she seemed to shine in his eyes. He understood then that she was completely confident, the total opposite of him, and perhaps someone who could sit at the very peak of the social order. When he asked if she was truly certain about this, she answered that the ring itself was proof of her seriousness. She explained that it had been specially customized for him. Yoshimi admitted that he was a little concerned, reasoning that normally a man wouldn't receive such a ring, and maybe such customs only existed in foreign countries. She denied it, telling him that his ring was truly one of a kind, which was why she believed it suited him perfectly. Yoshimi reluctantly took the ring out, only to put it back in the box, declining to accept it. Hikaru retrieved the ring box, pointing out that she had already checked everything in detail and confirmed that the ring matched the size of his finger. Yoshimi replied that it didn't seem so, but he didn't want the ring. He was still struggling to process the sudden marriage proposal, and while he admitted he had little experience with romance, everything felt far too rushed for him. Hikaru only glared at him, wondering if he was rejecting her. Yoshimi refused, saying that even though she was incredible, he truly didn't know anything about her. He thought she seemed overwhelmingly confident, and hearing such bold words from a girl her age nearly moved him to tears. She told him that he intrigued her, and that this unexpected turn of events only made her more fascinated. Yoshimi felt things were heading in that direction whether he wanted them to or not. She wondered aloud how long he would continue being stubborn, and with a snap, people suddenly surrounded Yoshimi. Even the police were among them, leaving him completely bewildered. Hikaru explained that she had connections in many places, and even if she willed it, the entire nation would be compelled to obey her. Yoshimi responded that people everywhere would be furious if the country ended up being run by someone like her. She then called out to everyone, and as they gathered, she declared that her boyfriend was trembling because he was struggling to contain his immense love. A man in the crowd reassured her that she didn't need to worry, saying it was clear she was deeply interested in Yoshimi. Another added that no man would ever dare reject such a beautiful and intelligent woman. Hikaru thanked them for their praise. They pointed at Yoshimi and insisted that he wanted to accept the proposal, claiming he looked happier than ever to be engaged, and that it was only a matter of time before he confessed his true feelings. Hikaru kept thanking everyone, while Yoshimi thought to himself that she was blatantly using public resources for her own private matters, and that this was what gave her such overwhelming confidence. But he also realized her radiance came not only from her influence, but from how skillfully she wielded it. The crowd even set up a stage for her, encouraging her to do her best, and once again, Hikaru stood before Yoshimi and proposed marriage. Yoshimi responded that no matter how much he looked at the ring, it wouldn't change his mind. He explained that there were too many differences between their personalities, and once again apologized. The older people around them seemed intent on pressuring him, which made him uneasy. He asked whether he could at least have more time to give his reply. Delighted, Hikaru asked if that meant he would answer within an hour or two. Yoshimi replied that it was far too soon, and at that moment, he hesitated deeply, unsure of what he should do. With the ring, Yoshimi went back home, expecting it to disappear, but when it remained, he understood he was not dreaming. He never thought that such a dazzling person would propose to someone as unremarkable as him. Soon after, Hikaru came to his door and asked him from outside to marry her. He said she didn't belong to him, nor he to her, and wondered if it wasn't first proper for her to greet him. He also thought about what the neighbors would say. She ignored greeting them, smiled gratefully, and left Yoshimi shocked as he wondered how she had found his house. She explained that she had asked the police for his address, and they had told her. She asked if he had finished thinking about her proposal, but Yoshimi told her he had barely had an hour. He thought she was truly beautiful and felt tempted to agree, but hesitated and told her he wouldn't say yes right then, and asked her to leave. She replied she would return in an hour, but Yoshimi protested that it was too soon, worrying that his parents would be home by then and wondering what excuse he would give if they saw Hikaru. Suddenly, his parents appeared, dropping the bag they were carrying. Hikaru wondered if they were Yoshimi's parents, and even introduced herself by saying she was there to seek their approval for her marriage with him. Yoshimi tried to stop her, but his mother wondered aloud if such a beautiful girl was really going to marry her son. Looking at Yoshimi, she suspected that he must have gotten someone's daughter pregnant while in high school. Yoshimi quickly clarified that he hadn't even held Hikaru's hand, but his mother, confused, insisted there was no other explanation except that Hikaru was pregnant. Excitedly, Hikaru added that she wanted to have a child as soon as she was added to their family register. Yoshimi's mother then asked if he had anything to say for himself. He replied that marriage wasn't something to enter into irresponsibly. His mother suddenly admitted she had many regrets of her own. But Yoshimi went on, saying he didn't even know anything about Hikaru, not even whether he liked her or not. Hikaru confidently declared that even if he didn't like her yet, she would make him like her and wouldn't take no for an answer. No matter how hard he tried to hide it, she had already noticed he was attracted to her and pointed out that he was still keeping the ring she had given him. Yoshimi replied that he didn't want to lose it before he could return it. When Hikaru remarked that Yoshimi was taking good care of the ring, he replied that it was only because the item was so expensive. His mother was shocked to hear that he had even received a ring. Yoshimi then tried to hand it back to Hikaru, but with sparkling eyes, she said he was only playing hard to get. Since he was still stubborn and unwilling to be honest, she added that she would make him honest by using her power. With a snap of her fingers, Shigemori appeared and began speaking to Yoshimi's parents, revealing that Hikaru was the daughter of the president of Mitsubishi Corporation. Yoshimi's parents, who were already familiar with the company, became excited. They remarked that Hikaru had a special aura, and that, as her name suggested, her brilliance was too great to be wasted on their son. They wondered how they could possibly show gratitude for receiving such a ring, calling it a wonderful thing to be refused over such a foolish reason. Hikaru thanked them for their kind praise. Both of Yoshimi's parents then urged him to go ahead and accept her proposal. His father added that Yoshimi was probably just blushing and found it hard to be honest, and he believed no one could resist praying for Hikaru right away. Hikaru, confident as ever, responded that she already knew that. Yoshimi told his friend Yoshida that a few days earlier he had suddenly received a marriage proposal from a beautiful girl. Yoshida did not believe him and wondered if Yoshimi had gone mad to say such a thing. Yoshimi replied that he also thought it had been a dream, but he still had the ring given to him by Hikaru. Suddenly, they saw Hikaru on the stage, greeting everyone and announcing that she was currently proposing to Yoshimi from Class 1, Section 3. All the students wondered who she was, amazed at her beauty. Yoshimi also questioned why Hikaru was in the school, and then he shouted in embarrassment, asking why she was humiliating him in front of everyone. She greeted him pleasantly and said she was there to get his reply to the proposal. Yoshimi replied that it was not something they should reveal in front of everyone. The other students were equally confused about why such a beautiful girl would propose to someone like Yoshimi. Yoshimi then rushed away, thinking it might be a nightmare and that he had really messed things up. As he was running, his teachers stopped him and told him to listen, explaining that all their jobs depended on his actions. Yoshimi was shocked and soon realized that it was all because of Hikaru. She came up from behind, saying that it was true, and that running away out of shyness meant he was not being honest with himself. Yoshimi replied that he was running precisely because he was being honest with himself. He added that what she was doing with others was not right, and asked her what she was really there for. With sparkling eyes, she said that she simply wished to meet him. He answered that she could have met him any time if she had just asked. She then revealed that she had gone to his parents to talk and to get an answer to the proposal, but they had not been at home. Yoshimi remarked that people would not want to meet her if she came every hour. One of the teachers shouted at Yoshimi, saying she knew how confused he was about the proposal and that she wanted him to at least try to hate Hikaru. She added that if he did so, his awful PE grades might naturally improve, and she would even be willing to raise his grade if he agreed. Yoshimi asked her not to do that, admitting that he had not yet decided anything, and that if he ran away again, he should be the one to face the consequences. However, surrounded by so many adults, he wondered how he was expected to remain calm in such a situation. Hikaru became excited when she heard that, and ordered Shigemori to clear the crowd so that only she and Yoshimi were left standing face to face. Yoshimi then told her that she truly was a great person, but the gap between them was far too large. He apologized, saying he could not marry her because he wished to remain a normal high school student. If he were to marry her, she would surely face hardships, and besides, ordinary high school students would not decide to marry so soon. He added that, if possible, they should first get to know each other better while being together, starting with a proper relationship. From behind, some people held boards showing their support for Hikaru. Yoshimi suggested that they could start by simply holding hands and seeing where that path might lead, and that he wanted to think about marriage seriously only after enough time had passed. Hikaru, though looking aggrieved, seemed strangely confident. Yoshimi wondered why she appeared so happy for someone who had just been rejected. She apologized, admitting that she had overdone things and caused him great anxiety, but assured him not to worry because she would never let him experience any hardship. She praised him as a truly wonderful person and said that even though there was a gap between their worlds, his honesty made her thankful. She further explained that there might be heart-rending obstacles ahead and many people could try to hinder them, but she promised to remain by his side and protect him no matter what happened. She vowed to give her all to shield him from anything bad, and for that reason, she would transfer to his school. Yoshimi was shocked and wondered if she had really been listening to what he had just said. Hikaru agreed that she understood him. Meanwhile, Yoshida, who was watching everything from a distance, was utterly shocked. The scene then shifted to Hikaru's house, where she spoke to her sisters about transferring schools. They decided to confront her about it themselves, and one of them remarked in surprise that Hikaru was transferring schools for the sake of a man, which left the two sisters stunned. She revealed that a man had made Hikaru fall for him, and they decided that, as the K4 from Kiraboshi Academy, they should investigate it. One day in class, Hikaru entered with several bodyguards who stood at the back of the room. She greeted everyone and introduced herself. Tanaka mentioned her seat, and Hikaru replied that she had guaranteed the seat next to Yoshimi. Yoshimi pointed out that transfer students were not allowed to choose their seats on their own, but Hikaru insisted it was necessary for her to always be beside him. She was very excited at that moment and said that now they could start living as normal students, just as he had told her before. However, she did not seem to understand the true concept of an ordinary high school student. The other students wondered why a girl from Kiraboshi Academy had come to their school. They realized she belonged to the Mitsuboshi conglomerate, and she appeared to be proposing to Yoshimi, which they could hardly believe. Yoshimi listened to all of this, thinking it might trouble others, while Hikaru, though only walking to her seat, stood out immediately. She might have been wearing expensive branded clothes, and if she continued acting so elegantly, the social gap between them would only appear greater. Then someone commented on her poor-looking uniform, and Hikaru witnessed the situation as a girl nearly burst into laughter. Hikaru was confused, and the other students, looking at her, mentioned that she was from K4 and asked what had brought them there. Yoshimi did not understand what K4 was, and then Hikaru explained that it included her as well, and that all of them were dazzling students of Hiraboshi Academy. She introduced Hana Bishitoa and Juji Tamao and Dushin Narumi. The other students whispered that those three girls were extremely popular and were daughters of high-class families, which made it even more shocking that Hikaru's friends were of the same status. Hikaru added that they had all been well acquainted since elementary school, and people always caused a fuss whenever the four of them were together. That was why she had decided their little clique needed a name, and she had given it one. Yoshimi wondered why she had chosen such a grand yet embarrassing title for herself. The teacher remarked that their self-esteem was indeed very high. Tamao pointed out that it was rude of Hikaru to describe their close relationships so openly, especially while she had been hiding the fact that she was transferring schools. She questioned whether Hikaru had been too busy with a man to spare time for them and warned that even if Hikaru thought they would not find out, her family's intelligence network was far too wide. Hikaru then apologized, saying she had been waiting for the right moment to tell them she was getting married. Her friends were confused, still trying to make sense of her words. They wondered if Hikaru had truly fallen in love to the point of marrying and demanded an explanation. Hikaru clarified that it was only a promise to marry, and she had noticed the large social gap between them. She explained that before thinking of marriage, he wanted to grow as a man with her and live a normal high school life. Blushing, she admitted it was embarrassing to say such things aloud, and she hid her face while speaking. Tamao then asked if Yoshimi intended to do the deed with her before marriage as part of his proposal. The other two questioned if Yoshimi was actually a playboy. Yoshimi was shocked by their words and realized that his reputation was already very low. They asked Hikaru if she even understood what she was saying, reminding her that she was the only daughter of the Mitsubishi conglomerate and that marrying or even dating someone of such low standing was unacceptable. Then she ordered Yoshimi to go and bring some water. Yoshimi returned with 4 bottles, but Tamao criticized him, calling him a second-class man, even though he had gone out of his way to get the water. Hikaru defended him, saying he was a thoughtful person. Tamao then turned directly to Yoshimi, asking whether he had any right to marry Hikaru. Yoshimi hesitated, and she went on to argue that, since they had been by Hikaru's side since childhood, a plain and unremarkable man like him should not be allowed to date her. She insisted that they could never become a good pair. Tawa added that the two of them were like the moon and a turtle, while Narumi said she could not imagine how Yoshimi had managed to make Hikaru fall for him and suspected he must be scheming something in secret. They even went so far as to call him a scary person. Yoshimi replied that it was all a misunderstanding, but they discussed exposing him, emphasizing the tremendous gap between him and Hikaru. Yoshimi struggled to answer them until Hikaru revealed that she was the one who had fallen for him and proposed. They were surprised, especially when she admitted that she had given him an engagement ring. Tamao scolded her, saying she should not be playing house games when she was already in high school. Hikaru countered that her feelings were embodied in that 100 million yen ring. Yoshimi was shocked to hear the amount and tried to return it with trembling hands. Hikaru wondered why he was acting so humble, saying that the ring was an honest representation of her feelings for him and he did not need to be shy. All she asked was for him to tell her how to make him happy. Turning to her friends, she declared that the ring was proof of her sincerity and insisted that, despite being her friends, they doubted her, while true friendship was about supporting one another. After Hikaru reminded them of the help she had given to Tamao, Towa, and Narumi, she also added that Kiraboshi Academy itself was run by the Mitsubishi conglomerate. Yoshimi wondered whether they were truly friends. After that, the three of them moved closer to Yoshimi, trying to act cute, and said that he really was wonderful and that there could be nothing wrong with him. Hikaru added that she hoped it would be fine for them to understand, since any insult directed at Yoshimi was also an insult to her. She warned that if she ever witnessed discourteous behavior toward him again, their very existence would be erased from society. She then turned to Tamao and asked whether Yoshimi's glasses did not look wonderful. At that moment, Tamao felt truly humiliated. Yoshimi thought to himself that it seemed they were friends in name only. All three of them apologized for making such improper comments about Yoshimi. He told them not to worry and said they should not go so far, admitting that even if it was true he was plain and unremarkable, it did not matter. The three of them then agreed that Yoshimi was actually a wonderful person, and they all understood it now. Crying, they ran away from the scene. Yoshimi thought to himself that they had treated him like trash before, yet now they were lowering themselves before him. He still did not fully understand the world Hikaru belonged to, but he felt that she truly was an amazing person. The bell rang, signaling the start of the first period. Yoshimi then saw Hikaru in a jersey, and he overheard people murmuring about her. He thought she looked very cute in it, and was sure she must be good at sports as well. However, as he watched, he realized that she was not. At that moment, Yoshida remarked that it was amazing. Yoshimi wondered if Yoshida was referring to Hikaru and agreed that she was amazing, but Yoshida clarified that he had been talking about Rumamoto, who had been standing right next to Yoshimi the entire time, and had not been hit even once. When the ball came toward Yoshimi, he was left confused by the situation. From the next day onward, students began greeting Yoshimi kindly, even the girls. He was surprised, since no one had paid him any attention earlier, but now, because of Hikaru, everyone was treating him warmly. Hikaru eventually found him hiding in a corner, trembling. Yoshimi confessed that he was scared because his world was changing so quickly. She told him not to worry and said that if he felt unsafe, her bodyguards would accompany him. He asked her to stop using such conspicuous methods. Hikaru dismissed all the guards, and Yoshimi wondered why she placed him so high and went to such lengths for him. She replied simply that she just wanted to marry him. Yoshimi tried to put himself down, saying that he was dull, not even the same height as her, and that his academic results and athletic abilities were nothing impressive. She responded that none of that mattered and pointed out that he had been active in PE class. Yoshimi countered that it was only because of the influence of Mitsuboshi. With sparkling eyes, Hikaru insisted that he did not need to be so humble, since he was already her destined partner. Yoshimi then wondered if he should ask her a question. Hikaru, suddenly excited, told him to ask anything he wanted. Yoshimi finally asked her why she had chosen him. Hikaru replied with a calm smile that Yoshimi looked wonderful from behind. He was confused, so she explained that, if she recalled correctly, on the first day of school she had seen him near the park while he was walking with his parents. Yoshimi hesitated, trying to understand if this was truly how influential people thought. He handed the ring box back, insisting that he had to return it. To him, she was beautiful and had everything at her fingertips, and that was why she saw him as something unusual. He told her to trust that she could say such things only because she had faith in herself. He added that she did not actually like him, but rather liked the fact that she was capable of liking someone like him. Hikaru became confused and wondered what Yoshimi was trying to say. Yoshimi then apologized directly and told her he would not marry her. At that moment, Shigemori appeared and remarked that Hikaru was not used to dealing with rejection. Yoshimi left, but after some time he stopped, thinking that he would be lying if he said he was not happy to receive her feelings. Still, for some reason, he felt a lingering regret. He admitted to himself that he did not even like who he was, so he was not qualified to handle the uncertain feelings of someone who might like him. Frustrated, he thought he had already failed at life, and events like this would never happen twice. Just then, he noticed something unusual. Yoshida appeared, saying that Hikaru had taken his bicycle and rope and ridden away. Yoshimi was shocked, realizing she had actually stolen the bicycle and run off. Yoshida explained that she had left him a check for 100,000 yen, even though the bicycle had only cost 40,000. Another boy pointed out that Yoshida had made a profit. Shigemori arrived and explained that Hikaru had always commuted by private car since she was born and had never ridden a bicycle before, which meant she was in great danger on the road. Yoshimi, alarmed, told her not to worry. Shigemori then revealed that they had positioned snipers around Hikaru and even had permission to shoot if anything happened. Yoshimi was stunned and told her they should evacuate pedestrians first. He thought that if anything bad occurred, it would all be his fault. Immediately, he started running after Hikaru. Shigemori then admitted that she herself had never ridden a bicycle either. Hikaru rode the bicycle very fast, which surprised Yoshimi since she had learned it so quickly. He realized she was being considerate of him, and although he hadn't noticed before, she truly was athletic. She wondered if Yoshimi had finally noticed her efforts and went on to mention many impressive things about herself, such as knowing how to play the piano, mastering 5 different languages, and much more. She really was amazing, but only wanted to know more about Yoshimi. Despite that, Yoshimi still pushed her away. He wondered if she understood his low social standing and thought that if she went too far ahead, there was nothing he could do to close the distance between them. Soon, he noticed that Hikaru kept circling around the same area, and he had a hunch that they were just going in circles. Shigemori explained that Hikaru had run away because it was the first time she had faced a setback in her life, and it seemed like she didn't know where to go. She compared her to an airplane stuck circling in the air. Yoshimi called out to Hikaru, saying he was worried and suggesting they should go back. Hikaru wondered where they should go, and when Yoshimi suggested returning to his house, she instead took him to her own home, which seemed like a castle to him. Yoshimi was welcomed there and explained that he had only come to make sure she reached home safely. He added that staying longer would be a nuisance since her parents might be confused about why he was still there, especially since he wasn't her boyfriend. She revealed that her parents were never around anymore because of work and that it had been a long time since she had seen them, probably not since elementary school. Yoshimi then understood why she felt so lonely. Hikaru told him that she found it wonderful how he looked from behind and reminded him of the morning of the school entrance ceremony, when he had been making a fuss while his parents fussed over him as well, which looked funny and implied they had been arguing. She admitted that she envied him. For someone like her, being alone had become normal, but she thought it would be fun if she were with him, the one who made her smile. The more she learned about him, the more she had those embarrassing daydreams. She recalled the past when she told Shigemori she wanted to have a family like Yoshimi's. Shigemori had jokingly replied that in that case, she should just marry him, though Yoshimi hadn't realized it had all been part of Shigemori's plan. Shigemori eventually apologized for that. Yoshimi told Hikaru that his family was only an ordinary one. Hikaru replied that the word normal could not even begin to describe him and his family, and that he himself was the proof of that. She added that even though he had rejected her proposal, he still came to take care of her, which was proof that he was a kind man. Yoshimi insisted that his family did not deserve such high praise from someone like her. Shigemori remarked that Yoshimi went above and beyond in criticizing his own parents, and was simply not used to being praised. Yoshimi then added that if they were talking about caring, it was Shigemori who clearly cared about her the most. Hikaru answered that it was Shigemori's job to do so, and when Yoshimi fell in between them, it only proved her point, that what Yoshimi regarded as normal was not the same as her version of normal. She explained that even if he thought of himself as an average boy with average grades, she herself had terrible physical weaknesses and many other flaws. Yoshimi told her she did not need to go that far. Still, Hikaru insisted that Yoshimi was the most wonderful man she had ever met. She admitted, however, that it was her selfishness that had caused the unfavorable outcome for her, and that she needed to bring everything to a proper conclusion. She then declared that she would throw the ring away. As she did so, Yoshimi shouted no and jumped to grab the ring. He was shocked at himself and wondered what he was even doing, since the ring had been the root of all the troubles he had recently faced. Yet he still caught it, questioning whether it was because Hikaru had spoken the truth, making her persistence in wanting to marry him feel somewhat charming, or if he was simply feeling sorry for her. After catching the ring, he sat on the balcony, but suddenly slipped and fell into the river. Fortunately, there was a pond below which saved him. When Yoshimi climbed out, Hikaru wondered why he had bothered to pick up the ring if he still would not accept her proposal. Yoshimi thought to himself that he did not even know the answer, but he felt it was far too early for them to marry. That was why he suggested that instead of marriage, they should start dating first. As Hikaru gave him a strange look, Yoshimi wondered if he had messed up again, and questioned why he had proposed such a compromise to a dazzling, top-tier girl by suggesting they should date. He quickly apologized to her. Hikaru then began crying, telling him that he should have been more honest with her, and admitting that he really was charmed by her. Yoshimi wondered if those tears came from anger. He was surprised to see her cry, since she always seemed to have everything in the palm of her hand. She had always been so confident, and even when he had rejected her earlier, she had not shed a single tear, which had made him believe she was a strong-willed person. She recalled her past words, and thought that perhaps she was simply more deserving than others. Yoshimi offered her a handkerchief, asking if she was fine and telling her she could use it. She only stared at him, and he quickly added that it was not expensive or high quality and that she didn't have to use it if she didn't want to. She was deeply grateful for such a small gesture from him and wondered if he had finally acknowledged her, reassuring herself that her eyes had not deceived her after all. Yoshimi, in turn, felt relieved, thinking that she had come back to life. Hikaru promised to return the handkerchief after properly washing it, but Yoshimi told her she didn't need to go that far. She replied that it made her truly happy to borrow one of his possessions and that she wanted to hold on to it for a little longer. Yoshimi blushed, wondering if she could really have the whole world dancing to her tune. He realized how happy she became just from him offering her a handkerchief, and he never imagined that someone from the top tier and someone from the bottom tier could actually be so similar. They were shocked that even though Yoshimi had rejected Hikaru, he still proposed that they start again, leaving them uncertain about what to do next. Tamao remarked that their position in the cast had been lowered because of Yoshimi. This left them even more shocked, and she declared that she would never acknowledge either of them. Yoshimi and Hikaru went inside the house and mentioned that they were now in a relationship. Hikaru happily added that this meant they were one step closer to marrying and becoming a family. Yoshimi suggested that they should not get ahead of themselves, but Hikaru insisted that they had to properly commemorate the moment. She pointed out that a legal document described the essence of their relationship and asked him to sign it. Yoshimi replied that he could not be bound by so many legal agreements, as that was not what a normal relationship looked like. Hikaru wondered if she was mistaken, and explained that she believed when a man and woman entered a relationship, signing documents was a precaution, similar to how people appointed heirs to their fortune in case something happened. Yoshimi felt there was still a clear difference between that and marriage. When Hikaru asked what people in a normal relationship would do instead, Yoshimi didn't give a definite answer. Afterward, Hikaru went to speak with 3 girls and told them that she and Yoshimi were going on a date. She explained that Yoshimi himself had mentioned that if they were in a relationship, they should be doing so. The 3 girls were shocked, but nevertheless assured her that they would support her relationship. The other 2 asked Tamao if she was all right with it. Tamao replied that she had to say something to show her support. Narumi then pointed out that if things continued this way, Yoshimi and Hikaru might end up ranked higher than them. Tamao remarked that this was in fact an opportunity, since Kiraboshi Academy was an all-girls middle and high school. Many of its students had little experience with boys, and especially in Hikaru's case, because of her high social status, she did not know how to approach men normally. With her lack of knowledge about dating and relationships, Tamao suggested that if they only pretended to support her, they could create a plan to eventually break them apart. The other 2 agreed. Tamao then asked Hikaru if she had prepared everything for her first date. Hikaru admitted she had not, since they hadn't even decided where to go. The 3 girls assured her to leave it to them and promised they would spare no effort in preparing her. They then made Hikaru wear only undergarments, leaving her confused about whether this was really how people prepared for a date. Feeling strange, she asked about it, and Towa told her that she truly was wearing something like that. Tamao stated that although she was only revealing undergarments, it was something she should be willing to do for her man if she truly cared. Hikaru wondered how wearing such clothes could make her date a success. They insisted it was her luckiest set of undergarments, which left her even more surprised. Narumi added that she should be more aware whenever she felt the wind brushing against her. Still feeling uncomfortable, Hikaru questioned whether this was really what girls wore on their first date. Tamao claimed that men always liked it when their partners wore revealing clothing. She added that it was true Yoshimi would want to get close to her before marriage, and if Hikaru did not respond to his desires, it might appear as if she had failed in her duties as a girlfriend. If things turned out that way, it would not be wrong to say that the fault lay with Hikaru. Hikaru was still unsure, uncertain if this was truly what girls were expected to wear on a first date. At that point, she decided to call Yoshimi to inquire about it. Although the others asked her to wait, she placed the call anyway. When Yoshimi answered, Hikaru greeted him by asking which colors he preferred, explaining that she had both black and white with her. She learned that Yoshimi preferred red. The 3 girls were shocked, calling red bold and daring. They wondered if, rather than helping, they had actually set up Hikaru's first date to fail. Yoshimi went to the place they had agreed on, thinking that he had never been on a date before. The only time he had met girls in casual clothes was at the supermarket near the convenience store. Even after worrying so much about what to wear, he had still come in plain clothes and felt that he should have spent more time on his outfit. He wondered if he looked too dull and only hoped that Hikaru would be able to notice him in such a crowded place. He kept wondering what he should do, as Hikaru was receiving so much attention that he couldn't find the right moment to call out to her. He usually couldn't describe her with any words other than beautiful, and somehow she seemed even more motivated than usual, or perhaps it simply felt refreshing to finally see her in casual clothes. He thought that if he had to stand next to her, he might not even manage it, as her radiance alone felt overwhelming enough to turn him to ashes. He noticed 2 pickup artists staring at her while commenting on her aura. When he finally met Hikaru, she looked genuinely happy just to see him. Others around them also wondered who he was, but since Hikaru appeared to be enjoying herself, they decided to let her be. After that, Yoshimi and Hikaru went to watch a movie. As they sat down, Yoshimi thought that even though they were now a couple, he barely had enough confidence to hold a proper conversation with her. She wondered whether they were really going to watch the film, and when Yoshimi asked if she didn't like it, she revealed that she actually loved movies, but usually watched them in her home cinema. She admitted she had thought they would go somewhere quieter for their first date. She was still wearing the red undergarments she had once asked him about, and then she asked what he planned to do at the cinema. Yoshimi, confused, wondered if she didn't actually mean watching the film. She seemed disappointed, while he kept questioning what she had intended. As the film went on, he wondered if she had meant that she wanted a more luxurious setting and that going to a cinema for a date felt too plain. He told her they would go to a quieter place afterward, which made Hikaru look excited. Yoshimi then took her to a nearby art gallery, assuring her that it was quieter than any other place in the area and that she would enjoy it. Yet Hikaru still appeared disappointed, making Yoshimi wonder if something was wrong. She recalled Tamao's words, that if the relationship ever failed because of such reasons, then it would not be wrong to say that the fault lay with her. Hikaru asked if she wasn't charming enough for him, which made him wonder what she meant by that. Just then, her bodyguards arrived, and Shigemori remarked that Hikaru had completely lost her dazzling aura and her confidence. She instructed someone to go and set up a perimeter immediately. Yoshimi commented that even at that moment, Hikaru was attracting more attention than the art pieces around her. Yoshimi wondered how the most confident person in the world could suddenly lose all of it. They sat down together, and she apologized for her abrupt actions, admitting that it had only been to prevent a lascivious development during their date. He wondered what she meant by that, and gave it some thought. Hikaru remained silent, while Shigemori remarked that perhaps they hadn't praised Hikaru enough and suggested that to restore her usual confidence, her bodyguards should compliment her on every part of her body. Following her words, the bodyguards began to do so. As Yoshimi sat with Hikaru, she admitted that she knew she was gorgeous and welcomed compliments. Yoshimi mentioned that her beauty was already undeniable, from her hair to her makeup, where she always put in extra care and detail for special occasions. Yet, despite all that effort, she felt it meant nothing if it failed to impress the person she liked. She confessed that she had even worn her set of lucky undergarments and endured any inappropriate thoughts during their date, but she still considered herself a failure as a girlfriend. Yoshimi wondered about the undergarments, certain he hadn't misheard, and reflected on their significance. He told her that she had gone out of her way to learn everything about him, which must have taken a great deal of effort for someone like her, especially since he considered himself dull. Although it might not have been obvious, he admitted that he had spent a lot of time planning the date, even if it had turned out ordinary. He thought hard about where they could go, how they could have fun, and what he could do to make her happy. Since he had never interacted closely with a girl before, he had struggled with even the most basic details. He then stood up, clarifying that it wasn't as though he had never thought about lewd things, but his mind had been too occupied with so many other concerns. That was why she truly seemed so charming to him. She apologized, wondering what he had said, as she hadn't heard clearly. It had sounded like he found her very charming, and that day she seemed to shine even more brightly than usual, to the point he felt he could barely keep up with her. What mattered most, he thought, was that they were dating each other, so how could he not feel her charm? Hearing that, her confidence returned, and Yoshimi recognized it as well. Hikaru added that there was no way he wouldn't feel her charm, though perhaps he was simply too shy to say it aloud. Yoshimi agreed. She then extended her hand toward him, saying that since he found it difficult, she would take the lead in their relationship, asking if it was fine to hold hands. Yoshimi agreed, noting in his mind that her hands felt much warmer than he had imagined. He saw her blushing, her face reddened, and after that, she apologized, explaining that she had only ever attended all-girls schools and had never actually held a man's hand before. Yoshimi thought she must have been brave, then, to wear her set of lucky undergarments despite her inexperience. Finally, Hikaru turned to her bodyguards and told them that since she and Yoshimi had finally held hands, the next step would be that. Yoshimi remarked that it had been a while before they even began considering such things. Hikaru replied that it was completely fine, explaining that she was only being considerate of his purity, and then suggested that they go somewhere else to continue their date. He thought she was truly a wonderful woman. Hikaru even stated so herself with a confident smile. It felt to him as if she had suddenly appeared out of nowhere to propose, and he found it difficult to believe that someone so beautiful and influential would choose someone like him. Preparing himself to face the disparity between them, he felt embarrassed when her confidence revealed that they actually shared something in common. Then he noticed Hikaru kneeling down, which made him wonder if she was all right. At that moment, he caught sight of her skirt and was utterly shocked. Yoshimi returned home after the date, still lost in thoughts about that blurred moment. He even had dinner with his parents in silence and later took a bath, yet his mind refused to settle. He couldn't shake the shock of a noble lady wearing such racy underwear, and his imagination only grew worse the more he thought about it. As he stepped out of the bath, he reflected that he hadn't expected such a direct assault on his composure during their very first date. Her confidence must have been off the charts. He could only hope he was mistaken, that perhaps it was just an exaggerated misunderstanding and not what it seemed. Opening his door, he was startled to find Hikaru standing there. In a panic, he slammed it shut, only for her to open it again. Shocked, he wondered why she was in his house at all, and even more so, why she was dressed in pajamas. She explained that it really was her bedtime, but she had wanted to see him no matter what and simply couldn't resist coming. On her way in, she had already met his parents and apologized for barging in at such a late hour. His mother welcomed her warmly, telling her to stay as long as she wanted. Yoshimi was left speechless, wondering if Hikaru was truly that reckless. They had only just met that same day. Not even 5 hours had passed since then. He had also learned that she had only ever studied in an all-girls school and had never so much as touched the hand of a man. Shouldn't their relationship progress in a slower, more wholesome way? Yet if it was Hikaru they were talking about, someone who could do anything she wanted, perhaps it was all part of her plan. He feared that if he blindly followed her lead, she might not even be interested in dating at all and only wanted to rush into indecent things. His imagination spiraled until he pictured them married by the age of 18, raising a football team's worth of children. Horrified at the thought, he blurted out that 11 children would be far too many. Hikaru, puzzled, asked what he was talking about. She explained that she had only come to apologize for accidentally exposing her lucky undergarments to him earlier that day. She admitted it must have been too overwhelming for someone as pure-hearted as him, and she realized his mind might still be wandering from that shock, even though his body had made it home. She couldn't just sit idly at home knowing he was suffering because of her careless behavior. Feeling guilty, she admitted it had been her lack of research that caused the problem. Since he had been kind enough to date her, she declared it her duty as his girlfriend to make him her highest priority. Hikaru admitted that she was aware of wearing an immodest pair of undergarments, but asked if Yoshimi could tell her what kind of garments he preferred. Shanti then presented 3 options, explaining that she had left out the overly erotic ones out of consideration for him. Hikaru added that if Yoshimi expressed his preference, she could become a proper, lovely, and perfect girlfriend for him. Yoshimi's father commented that he liked the 3rd option, while his mother favored option A. Embarrassed, Yoshimi told them both to be quiet, then turned to Hikaru, thanking her for even considering his opinion but pointing out that since his parents were present, his replies would be limited. Hikaru grew excited, interpreting his words as an indirect request for them to go somewhere private where only the 2 of them could talk. Yoshimi, flustered, muttered that anything would be fine. When she wondered about his meaning, he clarified that he couldn't decide right then and would choose something later. She agreed, confidently saying that since it was her they were talking about, everything would suit a beautiful lady like her anyway. She was overjoyed that Yoshimi had praised her, while Yoshimi thought helplessly that she hadn't even let him finish his sentence. Later that night, after returning to her home, Hikaru lay down on her bed, remarking that for the pure-hearted Yoshimi to request such a variety of undergarments was truly something. She instructed Shigemori to prepare 10 sets, ranging from options A to C. Shigemori, bewildered, wondered how many chances Hikaru would actually have to show them to Yoshimi. Hikaru replied with certainty that a perfect girlfriend must always be prepared for everything.